building planning and Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for August. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let me try one trick while you're getting started here.
We can go ahead and stop with the building planning and do the BZA because we need to approve the rules because that gave you time to look them over. So I need a motion to approve the rules and regulations for the BZA. I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Approved. And we have nothing to discuss other than that on the BZA. So we'll close that and we'll open up the building plan. As far as old business goes, you've all got the minutes from last month. I need a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
I make a motion we approve the planning minutes from last month.
I need a second.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Approved. Okay. So, we can start with, as far as old business goes, we can go through the wayfinding signs, that group, to see what you guys have come up with.
Okay. I had something we were going to put up on there, but I'll try to just show it to everyone here. I don't know if my screen's big enough. So currently we have the signs, you all have seen them that as you enter town, and then they have welcome to Clayton, and then underneath is the school merits, basically, from the past several years go underneath it. What I would think we might want to do is move the school, this is just one idea, move the school merits off to a separate sign and then put wayfinding signs underneath the town sign. It would look something like, it's kind of hard to see, something like that.
Do you have an idea of how big that sign would be? That way, as I'm able to talk,
Yeah,
as the
it's
group are able to talk to people.
the sign that's in place is 48 to 54 inches wide. The posts are 48 inches wide, end to end, and the bottom of the sign starts at 54 inches up off the ground. Now that's the one coming in from Belleville. I didn't measure the other ones. They're going to be close to the same. I just don't know if their clearance as far as off the ground is the same. I will print this out and email it to everybody so they can see what I was talking about. But there are put similar signs with these. We get to my other. We have these wayfinding signs that go there. Each sign is a separate one.
That way you could change it if it's needed.
Yeah, and that way, wherever you might be, and we put a sign, put them up, then we can have, okay, well, why would we be telling people where Lambert Park is when you're at Lambert Park, those kinds of things. So my idea would be to put these signs about 4 inches, 5 inches tall, boards across the bottom that have white with black lettering and a little icon like that. We can use those and send them off and get them made. If everybody's agreeable to that, or if we could want fancier ones, whatever. But signs pointing there, coming into town everywhere, and then in town we would have smaller signs without the welcome to Clayton graphic on the top, just a smaller sign stating turn here to parking or those kinds
So
of things.
basically, like just removing the welcome to Clayton, but still 4x4 posts and those individual boards.
Yeah,
With the arrows.
yeah,
where they
something
go.
something simple just here in town. at kind of at the core area here of town. And then out at 40 Belleville, coming in from Danville off 39, and coming from the high school, I think it would be a good idea to either put it out by the high school or at the turn at the T there from the high school on Amo Road with a sign that says Town of Clayton, and then maybe some of the area attractions, not necessarily where the town hall is or anything, because that they can find that out as they get closer to town, but Vandalia Trail and, you know, Lambert Park, those kinds of things.
If we were to put it right there at Michigan Street, coming into town, pointing Lambert Park this way and that, and you know, things like that, then technically don't we have a right of way right there at the corner? Like an area where I know they're putting the trail and stuff at that, just a thought.
Oh, yeah, I don't know how that works. I don't know if we have right of ways.
Instead of trying to figure out who the farmer is down at 200.
I have no idea.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
maybe it might be easier, just a thought.
Yeah, I have to find out, but anyway, that was my idea. I don't think that these signs made like this would be overly expensive. We can send the design to a company that make them rather than them coming up with design, because I think you pay extra for them designing and building the signs. So that's what I had as far as wayfinding goes, and Cindy is not here. We haven't really had a chance to meet as a group and chat, but we batted around a couple emails back and forth between Leanne and I and Cindy. So,
Like, say the one at Cox's would have the most, or you know, down at that intersection would have the most directionals, I would assume.
right.
Are you thinking like 6 foot tall, total height?
I
Rough
mean,
idea.
once I didn't have an idea on that,
Okay.
just because it just
Don't know what we're putting on it.
wanted to know what all we wanted to do and how simple we wanted it or how grand we wanted it.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I was just curious. That way, if we present it to the landowner.
Not to throw too big of a wrench in this, but, so Jim DiAgostino, the superintendent for schools, he applied for a permit from the state of Indiana to put up a notice about our girls volleyball, or softball team
Right.
winning the state championship. They denied him the ability to put up a sign. So if we take off the school stuff and then try to make another sign, the state's gonna say, you need a permit. I don't know how we got approved for the welcome to Clayton signs that we got, but they are adamant, you can't put up a sign just about your softball team. I don't know if somebody wants to take this project on of dealing with NDOT and trying to figure out what do you want from the town of Clayton for stuff, like our radar speed limit sign. They've said, no, you can't put those up anymore. I mean, doesn't seem to make any logical sense to me why they keep denying us putting up stuff. I mean, initially, I kinda understood their whole, you have to sign this liability waiver that the state's not responsible for your sign getting damaged.
Right.
But even with that, they're still like, no, it's a temporary sign, according to them. And that's why the speed limit signs aren't up anymore. So they made us take them back down. And they're not playing ball, I guess, is the best way to say it.
Okay.
But if somebody feels like they know how to negotiate with the state NDOT people, and they wanna start a conversation with them on how can we get signs approved along 39 in town?
How about this? Can we sidestep them? Because a thought that I have, right? Per se, Otis owns his yard, right? And we're outside the right of way, or James Penner along where he, along the farm ground right here, we're outside of that right of way. And James says, yeah, you can put a sign right here. Otis says, yeah, you can put a sign for Clayton. It'd have to be a little bit bigger, but technically that's in our jurisdiction outside of their right of way. and it's our workaround for 39. And then
Yeah, I
like,
don't know, I mean, the speed limit signs were actually further away from the road than the welcome to Clayton sign was. I mean,
Right.
it was, 9 feet from the sidewalk, from the edge of the sidewalk. So technically it was on somebody else's property.
but it's their sign.
But, so NDOT comes into play only with State Road 39?
Correct. Yeah, so the one down here on 0 and the one on 500 south, we won't have any problems with
Okay.
those. We can do whatever we want with those, we can.
And NDOT's gonna come
Add
in,
extra signs, we can do all those kinds of things.
they're also gonna,
Is the road going from this to that? I mean, when it comes into town, is 39 still 39? Or does it become,
It stays maintained.
even though our
Yes.
street signs stay different?
Right.
so that also is gonna come into play with 40 as well.
Yeah.
So,
Yes.
all right,
Maybe.
I'll do some digging.
I mean, and talking to the customer service person, they're like, oh yeah, you can do this, this, and this, you just apply to the permit. And then the permit inspector gets involved
Uh-huh.
once you apply, and they're like, no, you can't, no, you can't, no, you can't. And I'm like, cause, I mean, the last time I talked to the permit inspector, in order to put up the radar speed limit signs, we had to have some sort of a project in town that required people to slow down to 30 miles an hour.
Uh-huh.
Even though that's our posted speed limit
Okay,
in town. So they were, but yeah, they,
I'll call and do some digging.
And what was the reasoning on the sign, like the speed limit signs in general, what did it say on those? Well, we can have those.
they said there was no reason for us to have a permanent speed limit sign, a radar speed limit sign up at the entrance to town.
That's crazy.
I know, I'm,
I'm wondering if it's just easier to say no than
What's the consequence?
process the
I
paperwork.
guess the question would be, again, like if you could
oh,
work
they can
with,
fine
you could
you.
work
Yeah, they
with
can
the
send you a
church.
fine. Say, you guys now owe.
You know, we
It'd
could
be
cite
easier
them to work with the church or something and talk to them.
So I'll ask
You
them.
know what I mean? Like, if
Right.
we're working with a private landowner that's in our jurisdiction, then that's our jurisdiction.
The speed limit sign that's up by the, apartments.
Library.
The speed limit signs that are by the school zone, those are all put up by NDOT. So NDOT put those up. And then the radar speed limit signs, when we had them up, I applied for a permit.
Right.
They approved a 6-month permit, I left them up for a year, and, they didn't say anything, so I thought, oh, we've made it through, and then suddenly they had an inspector come through and said, those aren't approved, you need to take them down immediately. And,
So we need a donation for portable units.
I mean,
Then we could just move them every so often, move them around.
So you gotta figure out the end dot, just need to figure that out.
Right.
but, so I talked to that lady, I was blue in the face, and she was just like, what's your purpose for having the sign up? And I'm like, because we want people to be alerted to, they're coming into town and they need to slow down. Well, we already have a speed limit sign up for that. It's not working. Radar speed limit signs work better because it tells you what your speed is currently and that you're going too fast.
Get your attention.
It does, but,
It's like the one on 75 here at Coastal by the trail.
yeah, I don't,
Okay, well, I'll dig into it, see.
Did you have any input, Leanne, on anything you came up with or thoughts for that?
No, my only thought is, I'm wondering, is there any kind of electrical eye and light situation that instead of having a sign that says you're going 48, you're going 45, you know, that if it could radar somebody and just have a red light that would come on, instead of telling them exactly what their speed is just something that would light up and say, oh, there's a stop, or there's a 30-mile-an-hour sign here. Yeah, something.
If we put a street light on that at night, and get their attention, I mean, it'd be lit up. That is a good idea. Okay, so no more on that, correct?
Huh?
On the wayfinding, that's what we got, or
Yeah.
so far, okay.
Yeah,
Okay, moving on to the overlay for strategy 2, or the improvements for Kentucky Street overlay. Doug sent out an email, and I had printed off what I had kind of found, which we had a presentation this evening, correct? That's what very much she's gonna talk about the overlay map, things like that, that go along with that. I've had a chance to kind of look both of those over. So my thought is we have mixed use businesses on 39 currently, but for the overlay, we could do a zone, because you can just basically, to my understanding, you can say this area, this general area, you don't have to go property for property, you can do, basically just draw a circle, for lack of better words. And we could say the houses that go north of the town hall to the end of town, and then south of the food pantry, or wherever that kind of line ends, we can say that that's like a home business type district. And we can define what that, comes up with a definition of what that means. So that way if someone wants to have a small barber shop or beauty parlor, upholsterer, accountant, where you're only having 2 to 3 customers maybe at a time, kind of the way like your flower shop is laid out real nice with a nice, you've got parking spaces for like 4 or 5 people, I didn't count them, but you've got those spaces and it fits that property. So you can have that, you can have like tattoo artists or something, but we set the regulations to where in that district you can operate that home style business from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. and then that way you're not bothering, a neighbor's not bothering another neighbor if they have a small CPA office or whatever it is that fits that we come up that fits that definition. So then that helps encourage people, like the lady here was asking in the council meeting about a little beauty shop. Well, she's got 2 seats in there, that's 2 cars plus her normal car and maybe 1 employee's car, that's 4 cars. As long as she's got the parking for that, per se, she could operate there, and still live there and be a resident in that house. And it would give people encouragement to know that they could do something like that in that corridor. Since it is right on 39, kind of a main street, and it would help. It may help bring more small businesses into our town. Was my thought to that, how to kind of expand our business district. But we can write it in such a way that it's very restrictive to what styles of business, how many people can be in there, the hours of operation, stuff like that. It was kind of a thought I had that may help that.
It's a way to, I guess, to expand the business as a business district without, having the land to really do it, or, to open up new businesses, because there's not a whole lot of availability.
Yeah, it's also a way to really tightly control it, so you don't put, like I referenced McDonald's last time, because that's all I could come up with, so you don't put a big corporate store right next to, Leanne's house, technically. But we can invite other small businesses to come in, and maybe even make it to where they need to come and get, it's a special approval in that area. So that way they talk to the town manager or to this board and say, hey, this is what my idea is, this is what I want, will you guys, does it fit your criteria before I do it?
I think, to me, the whole purpose of a zoning map is so that we have kind of a purpose in the layout of our town. And I think if you get too carried away with, we're gonna zone all of 39, this way so that it can all be mixed use, then suddenly we're gonna have, you know, 4 houses that are still R5, and then we're gonna have a business, and then we're gonna have 2 houses that are R2, then we're gonna have a business, and then we're gonna have, so I think we're gonna have a town that has this, gingham cat kind of, you know, lookout, you know, instead of having zones that look congruent and kinda you can expect, here's what's gonna be in this part of town, and here's what's gonna be over in this part of town. We would lose a defined town business district, in my opinion, and we would then all of a sudden have this, you know, almost a chaotic quilt looking kind of thing of, well, now we have, you know, a property over here that's zoned one way, and we have another property over here that's kind of zoned similar, but, you know, and it would just, to me, look like a patchwork quilt instead of something that we purposefully laid out with a design and an idea of, here's where we're gonna have businesses, and here's where we're gonna have residences, and make it so that, you know, there is a reason to, you know, move towards the downtown area, because that's where your businesses are. And then there's another reason to move, or to walk out further, because that's where our residents are, or parks, or those kinds of things. Maybe I'm thinking too simplistic about this, I don't know, but I think that I would rather have a better defined set of zones, rather than have a, you know, a stretched out all along this area, you could do these multiple different things.
My take on like the overlay type deal, where it still be R5, still be residential, but you can have a home business, similar to like how Leanne has her setup, was my thought to that. Not that we would have a full-blown shopping center like Cindy's Place or anything like that. It would be a small, like a CPA office or something, you know, just something that works to where it's residential, but you could have a small home office or a small.
What do we do now? I mean, we don't have an overlay now. What do we do right now if that lady comes in and says, I want to put a beauty shop in? We rezone her property, don't we?
Correct.
Rezone the whole 39, we just rezone hers. I don't see why.
Yeah, just like we've done with Wayne Lanes, I mean, he's bought property that was zoned R2, he needed R3 for his doubles, so we said, absolutely, so we rezoned it in this committee, so, same kind of thing can happen with other places, which, just interesting, so as I combed through the UDO on this, her property, she can have under the special use, of a, you know, approved use for her property, she can have the bed and breakfast already, the B&B that she's asked for. The beauty salon part, that would have to be the variance that she applies for. If she gets the variance, then she can have her little 2-booth haircuts and curls kind of thing, whatever she wants to do. So that part isn't gonna be a big challenge for her, if she wants to go through those steps. You know, but it's up to her
No, I get
to
that.
come in and say, I wanna do this, and, which I think is appropriate. The, part of this in this strategy, I think, that would be, great to work on is what we already have with our town business district, that our mixed use district information in our UDO is very poorly defined and laid out. So let's define that better. Let's say, we've got the stacks with the apartments above. We've got the liquor store with the apartments above. We don't have anything in our UDO that defines what that's supposed to look like. We just haven't. And so, obviously, you know, grandfathered in, but why couldn't we define that better? And then, you know, in the future, as things happen, say, you know, maybe the, Mr. Pettijohn with the appliance center wants to have his upstairs as apartments to rent out. We have this UDO that now defines that, how that is supposed to look, how that's supposed to work for his mixed use. He's got a commercial space on the ground floor, and he rents out apartments upstairs, or whatever it's gonna be, so.
So we need to define that in the.
What's that?
What you're saying is we need to actually come up with the proper
Yeah,
wording.
our
definition.
UDO has some issues,
Yes.
in my opinion, and I
I've
think
read
we
quite
just
a
need
bit.
to start working on, I mean, in one of the sections, it talks about, you know, the different approved uses, and it has nursing home that is approved. Assisted living, not approved.
What's the difference?
Exactly.
I know,
was
I
in
would-
the healthcare business for 35 years. I couldn't tell you, I couldn't articulate what is the difference between a nursing home and an assisted living in the definition of, from the state rules. So why do we have a UTO that gives us these zone, and these ambivalent kinds of proof of use issues in the UTO? So in our strategies of 2 and 6, I think would be better, instead of expanding this mixed use or business district kind of thing, is let's work on these definitions right now where they're at, and figure out, you know, what else needs to be defined better, what needs to be, you know, reworked a little bit to not only fit with what we have, but to improve future developments. I mean, it's just like our signage issue that we came up with a couple of years ago when they wanted to put up a new sign, and we were like, well, you can only have a 3x5 sign according to our UDO. And then we look around town and we're like, well, the end sign is bigger than 3x5, you know, the bank sign is bigger than 3x5, the town hall's sign is bigger than 3x5. So is it really fair to tell the business across the street, 3x5 is the biggest sign you can have? So those are, you know, definitely things we have to work on with the zoning. So I invited Mary, she's in the back row there. She works for Banning Engineering, is a planner. And since we have a contract with Banning Engineering, I thought, why not get the experts involved? So she agreed to come and talk a little bit. I don't know if you wanna
Yeah.
expand on some of this.
No, I think what you're saying is fairly accurate, and if it would be helpful, I'd be happy to come and kind of present more so on an overlay district. I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for that this evening, but if that's something helpful, just so you can understand how that can be used, I don't mind doing that. But again, kind of going off of what Doug has said, I'm happy to read through documents and help you kind of amend certain portions of the ordinance to make it clear, and then again, to help with the comp plan here, I know of just like building off of those strategies and achieving some of those things. And I think starting with the ordinance is probably gonna be the best place to go with that. But again, I'm happy to help with that and happy to do anything in terms of that. I did have one question. I noticed in the comp plan, it didn't necessarily look like the downtown corridor, had a zone at this point. Is that true, or was that just based off of what the comp plan had said, or was I misunderstanding it?
To my understanding, there's no actual defined zone,
Okay.
it's just that those properties, like across the street where you rent out the harvests and stuff, and then the stacks and all that is zoned town business district, I believe is the way it's
Okay.
laid out. It's not a defined, like.
Well, and it
circular
depends on which
zone.
zoning map you look at, because that's another thing.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
gotta-
Yeah, we've gotta
We've
get that
gotta
straight.
focus on, let's take a look at our zoning map. Now, this is something that Bannon Engineering did for us last year. And I didn't know about this until I started talking to Mark this last couple of weeks. But they've made an interactive GIS So I can actually go on here and click on one of these squares, and then it will give me a little window with here's what that parcel's all about, and it's zoned institutional use. It's owned by the Mill Creek Schools. It kind of gives you a little bit of information out of that. Now, one thing that would be really cool, which I don't know if this is going to be possible, you can't see it on that screen, but there's a little drop down, and it gives, I don't know why I can't see that over there, but there's a drop down that gives the colors and basically the legend, what those colors mean in that. And so it gives us, the purple is institutional, the yellow is R5, the blue is R2, on and on. And the green is open space. The only thing that I would ask is if in the future, if we could do this, is in that area, have a hyperlink to our UDO that says, what is R5? What are the definitions of what can go on in R5? I mean, we should be able to do that on our website.
Yeah.
Have this link to that
Right.
page in the PDF.
Right.
If you click on an R5 and you wanted to see, what does that mean? So I've got to have, 45,000 square feet, or I've got to, in my building, can't be more than 40% of the property area, whatever it is. I don't remember all the parts of that, but yeah, that would be helpful, especially developers who are wanting to look at this, or property owners who are wanting to look at this, and they click on their property and they go, can I add a mini bar in the backyard? And then they click on that, and it takes them to that page in the UDO that says, these are the approved accessories you can have, kind of thing. Now, on this particular map, and like I said, I've only been playing with this for a couple of days, but all of the little squares around, all the little squares around Kentucky and Iowa that are these, would you call that an orange?
Yeah, orange is red.
Something like that. Anyway, instead of saying town business district, these say highway business district. So, and that's differs from our UDO. So we just have to make sure to, somebody goes through that and makes those match up
Yes,
to what they really are in our UDO versus that. And the definitions in our UDO between highway district and town business district, there are no differences. They're the same. So I don't know why we have two different zones for that, but they're really identical. So, but any of the other things that we run into in here, obviously, will reflect back to what's our UDO say, what needs to be updated or changed, what about our zoning would help with this mixed use or other issues in the town business district. Our little daycare center across the street here, it's not an approved use in our zoning laws, in our UDO. Now, I don't wanna kick the daycare center out, I think they're doing fine there. But can we change the definitions in our UDO and our approved use, to allow that daycare center to stay there? That's, I'm not too sure why at the time when they applied for a permit and stuff, why the then town manager didn't say, oh, we better make these changes because you're not allowed to have a daycare center in the town business district.
Well, some things too that I ran across that I was gonna bring up about our map is, that looks like a copy of the one from 2011. And I know that they did not get things color coded correctly for current use even before our town took over their own zoning. Like, I do believe you know, we had the issue down there at the sewer plant that had to be straightened out. That was something that was missed back then for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And I think the sewer plant needs to be industrial, technically it fits that classification, not green space.
Yeah,
Little things
none
like
of
that
these
need to
things
be
are
updated.
insurmountable, it's just a matter of we have to identify them and then fix them. So
Correct.
we just, yeah, but it's gonna take time going through, combing through all this, seeing how does our zoning map line up with our UDO? How does our comp plan fit into that? If we're gonna make adjustments in our strategies, we might as well make sure that they all zipper in together. And that we're not, you know, having to make the change once and then go back and go, oh wait, let's change it again.
I think I had too narrow of a focus on trying to figure out how to improve that and not look at the broader picture of defining Kentucky Street in the business district was my thought. I kind of narrowed down how do you make improvement, because to me, updating the stuff is kind of.
Right, and the little
Part of
interactive
it.
GIS zoning map thing, we haven't paid for that, so it's not public, but hopefully at the town council meeting, I can bring it up and see if we can get it approved to pay for that and then start using it, put it on our website.
Yeah, 'cause
I wouldn't publish it yet, just until obviously we've had a chance to comb through it and make sure all the current zoning rules are actually reflected on that map, but.
Correct, yeah, that would be a good idea not to put it out there until it's right. Which I'm assuming
Well,
that's.
current, because
Well.
we're gonna make changes.
Correct. I meant make sure it's at least
Yeah,
up to snuff.
that's a great thing about government, you don't have to say it's right, it's just,
It's
it's
there.
current.
Yeah.
And we're gonna adjust,
Right.
we're gonna make amendments.
So I guess my question is, cause at that point in time, I would have to go in front of the council to ask for funds for her to work for us, correct? I mean, they're not on my
Yeah, she's
assumption
not
is they're
doing this
on
for free.
Correct, they're not already allotted a town budget, I guess is what I'm trying to say, they're not line items already in.
Well, there are some, I mean, we have a on-call basis with Banning Engineering, that they can do some work for that. I think that with some of the specific nature of this, it's a good idea to, you know, get a proposal for her to work for the planning commission, the BZA, and our efforts to adjust to comply with the strategies in the comp plan, to see where we need to go. So that's just,
Yeah, that's what
Makes
I
sense.
just wanna make
Yeah.
sure we didn't have like an open, not an open tab, but a line item already budgeted for their services yearly for our group. Whereas we need to seek approval, I guess, I guess if you could get something together that would give us just a.
yeah,
I
she's
think-
already sent us
Yeah,
something,
I've
so
sent
that.
a
Okay.
proposal, yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. That will help.
Alright, so in this, in the two strategies that we're trying to tackle with, zoning, with our group, and I don't, Otis, I don't think you were here last month, but I included you kind of in the email with some of that stuff, and Bob and Nick. And were there any things that jumped out at you from that initial communication on the action steps for strategies 2 and 6?
No, I mean, I have a broader understanding of what we're looking to do. I was kind of looking at, like, my thoughts of the overlay was, in my head, I thought, we already have the multi-use businesses here. To me, naturally, the step would be to write it down. But as we were doing that, if we laid out an overlay, if it worked, if that was something we all wanted to do as a group, we could do that similarly. Because, you know, strategy 2 talks about Kentucky Street. I was looking at more of, how do you make adjustments other than just defining the definitions, but I mean, now I understand what we're looking for, I'll start making notes and really looking at what I think I see in it that needs to be changed, and then we can come together with our group, with our, you know, information, give it to you, give it to this group, present it, and then you can tell us, guide us, and tell us, this is what I think, type of thing. So that makes more, more sense to me is what we're looking for, but no, there wasn't anything. I mean, there's a lot to unravel that is listed in, that ordinance that I know needs to be updated to current uses, and defined, because there's been a lot of businesses move in that were, approved to operate, and they don't fit any of the definitions of what's in there. So it has to be up to date with those businesses, since they were approved, by former councils. It just never got recorded, yes, or updated. Which we can dig into more as we go through it. There was nothing, I mean, that was kind of the general information, that's why I printed off that, what I've kind of found about the overlay, because I was kind of looking at that more so than, the definition of everything and defining it and writing it up. But I understand what we're doing, so a little bit better what we're looking to do here, so next month I will have more notes, and
I just been trying to find like comparable towns to like our situation, where they're at now, where, compared to where we're at now, where they were, when did we explain that? So somebody that's already grown that went through our situation and how they adjusted all their stuff to, to what it is now, where they're at, to where we are, and to see, kind of what everybody kind of does in, I guess, in what they all do together, just to try to find some resemblance to how we need to structure things, I guess. I just been trying to see how they like to do their zoning, and just not particularly zoning, but like what they've been doing with their towns in general, like how, the planning side of it, just trying to look at that type of stuff and just see if there's any like comparisons or notes that we need to do on our own before we do it ourselves.
like examples like Pittsburgh growing or something.
Like Pittsburgh, like New Palestine, like this towns like that, I kind of were using it as an example. I mean, just what they're doing and how they're growing, and what they're just everything in general. Just trying to find something comparable to us.
See what they did that maybe didn't work out well for them, but they readjusted later,
Or
or
good
that
things,
worked out
bad
well.
things,
Yeah, makes sense. I will have more information on what my thoughts are on rewriting to fit what actually goes on in our districts, next month. And then I've got, I've kind of started looking at our map too, cause that goes with it. And I've got with Pete and showed him a few things that for whatever reason were just not colored correctly, that need to be colored correctly. I mean, it's simple, cause they're just parcels, and if you're not clicking and coloring right, it happens, so, I've gotten with him on that. So I'll continue working on that, looking into other areas with Pete's help to see if he comes up with things that I don't see. That way we can have it all as a presentation for a group, maybe next month is the goal. And then, really that's all I have on the subject currently. Anybody else got anything in our group for that? Or do you have any questions or thoughts leading into our homework for next month?
No, I think I just was curious, and it may say on here, okay, so this, what I have, it says it's the draft comprehensive plan, but that is the most updated version, draft for March 2024.
I hope so, that was the one I had with that, if you wanna take, one of these with you and just compare
Okay.
if it's not,
Okay,
but I believe that's,
okay,
because when I looked through the strategies at least, they were the same.
okay,
Yeah, so
Alright.
strategy 2 and
6.
6, and, I just wanted to make sure
same with the UDO, when was?
The UDO that I,
2020 was when it was approved, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
February of 2020. And then the only update that we made that might not be in that is that signing ordinance, instead of it being a 3x5 sign, we approved 6x.
I don't remember the exact dimension we approved.
Yeah, I'll have to find the
Okay.
meeting minutes where we approved a
Sure.
change to that, but
so basically the one from 2011 is pretty much the same. Cause that's the one I have, UDO wise that I have.
you have a UDO from 2011?
It's the last time this was updated, yeah.
No.
No, I mean the last one that I have,
Okay.
that's paper, that's updated, that I can go through and read.
The updated, most recent UDO is on our website.
And it's
Okay.
from 2020, so
Yeah.
I'm sure you're going off of
Some
very
older-
old information.
Correct, that's the only one that I had that was actually in paper, so, it's easier for me if it's in paper. Do we have one, Pete? That's extra, that's in paper? Oh, okay, that's fine, I can get on the website and start going through it. I like to write notes, like I went through here and wrote a bunch of notes and I can go back and refer.
You're what we call a Luddite.
I'm just old,
You like paper.
yes.
No, it's just Luddites like paper. It's okay. You're allowed.
Oh, it's fine.
So, but we can print you off a new one.
Okay, that'd be great.
Right.
Now.
He's got a brand new printer in his office now, and he can just
Well, see,
print
they
it
had
off
it.
like a.
They had it in this handy dandy binder, and it was all put together. And you know, Rob had it because that's what he had, and he'd given me. He had the
Yeah,
extra.
see, that's not even, UDO is a combined document of our subdivision control
It's-
ordinances.
It's in here.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, I got subdivisions, BZA, like rules, comprehensive plan, the original comprehensive plan's in there, which I know is out.
now you're just being a hoarder.
No, that's just a
You
book I
want
had to
hold
operate
on to
with.
your old stuff.
No,
It's an antique.
trust me, I like the trash can. Things go in it, but that's what the book I had, so that's what I was reading.
All right.
So as far as that goes, we'll work on that. I'll get that printed off from Pete so I can write. And then that's the old business, correct? Or do you have more? No? Anybody else? Okay.
Where can we find the definitions of like the current zoning? Like what exactly constitutes R1, R2, industrial, et cetera?
Yeah, all that is in the UDO that's on the website, or we can send you, I sent her a PDF of it, so I can send you a PDF.
Would you mind?
No, I don't mind at all. And it is, you know, you basically just have to hunt through and find, okay, here's R1, here's what that means. And then there's a section in the back that has a big grid on approved uses. So basically it has either a blank space, meaning it's not approved, a P for definitely, that's approved here, or an S for special use in that grid. So you just look through all those kind of things. That's where it lists the nursing home and the assisted living home. And I'm like, so you just have to go through all that stuff and find those things. It seems like in part of this, it references another appendix or something that I can't find. So I don't know if I need to look through it some more, maybe consult, I mean, there should be another section is, in my opinion, but I can't prove it. I'm just like, this doesn't make sense. Anyway.
Okay, so as far as new business, the only thing that I have that I'm looking forward to try to get done maybe as a February meeting is, I got with Pete, we're gonna work on getting the annexation going again, to talk with the landowners and things like that. to move forward with that next year. I think just with the time frame that we have this year, I don't wanna do it right before Christmas, and I don't wanna do it right after the New Year's, because that's a tough time for people, they're traveling and doing things, so I think like, I was telling Pete, I think like maybe the February meeting might be a good time to have that meeting, as long as it falls within those guidelines to do that, to get that back on the agenda, to look at annexing again and growing the size of the town.
I think when you do go about the annexing, you need to have a clear, benefits to go and have a talking point.
Yes, I wanna do a very good presentation with a pros and cons style list, and that's where, when we move forward with that, I'd like your guys' input and information as to what you think pros and cons are joining the town, and then that way we can either I or we as a group put together a good presentation to the property owners that we're asking to be part of this town. Because I think that we do need to grow our physical size of the town, which eventually will give us room for other businesses or other subdivisions growth. Whatever you want to define as growth, it gives us room for that growth. But I think we need to get the ball moving. That way we're not 10 years from now still talking about it, or thinking about it, whatever it is, however you want to put it. So I got with Pete to look into those rules on when the timeframes for annexation are. I don't remember off the top of my head, I could not remember or find information if there were certain.
There are no restrictions to moving forward with doing that. All you have to do is, I mean, we've put it in our budget to make sure we had enough for next year if we're gonna, cause you have to consult a law firm that's experienced in this, so last time we annexed, we used Barnes and Thornburg, I think, is the one, and they were actually the ones here at that meeting that we had back in 2019, where we invited all those landowners
Right.
to come and talk, and so they had, they were ready for their presentation. Baker Tilly as the financial advisor was ready for their presentation. So it's just a matter of making sure that you have everybody invited to a meeting.
Did the farmers come to that meeting?
Yeah, we had the Macris were here, we
I had a full house.
we had a pretty,
Yeah.
great crowd.
I just couldn't remember if there were like off years with when you could do it for elections or something. I didn't know if it, I couldn't
No,
remember
it-
off the top of my head, so I asked
Right.
Pete to kinda give me some of that information again. And then like who
There-
to use.
There was one person that told us you couldn't annex the year that the census was going on. I found out later that was not true because 3 other communities around us annexed 3 different times in 2020 during the census.
Okay.
It was not a legal requirement that you had to wait. So, there are rules about it. Obviously, inviting one of the legal consultants from Barnes and Thornburg to come and talk to this group about, here's how to start this process off. That wouldn't necessarily be the bad thing. The other thing, we have their list of addresses still up here on the wall. That's been up there since 2019.
Right.
We just send them a letter saying, we'd like to have just an informational get-together meeting. Nothing's in concrete yet. We wanna talk about this process again.
And we can.
That doesn't have to wait till February.
Okay.
That can happen anytime.
I was just thinking the timeframe it would take to get the legal side of things, that kind of stuff. But I mean, I guess we could go about it like this, we could invite them in, to August. We could invite them in like October, to that meeting, because that gives them plenty of time to be notified, and then we could talk to them and say, hey, we would like to pursue this as a town, because we already kind of know what we would like to do. We just need to come up with some answers for some of the questions, or how we would handle some things.
Right, and there are some of these property owners that we've already engaged in conversations about this. Talk to them again, say, what kinds of things do you want to hear presented at this little get-together? You know, whether it's the Brennamans, cause I know they've had multiple conversations with you and Rob and
Right.
other people about, hey, I'd be interested in this.
Right. 'Cause
If,
we could take that
and they've
and give
given
it
us
to
a
the
list.
lawyers. Yeah, we could take that and give it to our lawyers, or
Yeah.
our legal team, whatever, annexation team.
And then, you know, no reason we can't like just go and talk to these people as we interact with them in the community.
Yeah,
I mean, we know
I know.
you
I try
interact
to,
with
yeah, I do.
lots of people in this community and we tow their car every other day. You know, we have Rob fixing their tractors all the
Right.
time.
Oh, I understand.
We know these people, they're not strangers, so we just have to talk to them and say, what do you think? Can we get together and just have a chat?
Yeah,
And that's what we're gonna invite them to do in this meeting, is you're gonna come in here again, and, you know, obviously,
get your inputs before we move forward with it, and that way we can
Right.
take that to our legal counselor, basically, that help us, and this is what they're looking for.
yeah, not only are we stating to them, here's what we want to do and why, but you tell us, what do you want out of this deal? What do you want to see
That makes sense.
with this issue? I mean, our primary goal is we want to form as much of a good, you know, moat or donut around the town when Plainfield comes out here, even though they've sworn up and down they're not going to. But the last development commission meeting I was at Plainfield, they have engaged in $180 million worth of land acquisitions on this side of Plainfield.
They put out a map that is not correct.
They're moving this way,
They're
whether
trying.
their planner wants to admit it or not, they are. I mean,
Well, they publicly put out a
They-
map and said that they were to Miles Road, and that they kind of skirted this side of, the east side of, Cartersburg Road, and I did a little digging on that. That is they haven't got through the farmer that's the holdup, because he owns more than 51% for voluntary.
they've annexed the golf course, that's in Liberty Township, but it's in the
I'm
town
not
of
saying they're not
Plainfield.
moving here.
So, I mean,
Yeah, I'm not saying they're not trying.
they are, they're not trying, they are. I mean, they built an elementary school down there on, Moon Road south of 600, and then annexed it in. I mean,
The longer
that's-
we take, the sooner they get here, I mean,
Right,
Yeah.
the more opportunity they
So
have.
it's just simply, from our perspective, how much, you know, is this, you know, just a defense mechanism of, we don't wanna be, you know, landlocked inside of Plainfield's annexations.
Well, we don't want our east side cut off, or Belleville area, like that direction cut off south of town, like for development, because at some point in time, it may be 50 years from now, but at some point in time, that farmland's gonna get developed. It's too prime of a spot. I'm not saying it has to be right this minute, like we annex or anything like that, because they just keep farming it, but at some point, that ground is too prime down there on 40 and 39 coming north into town for a builder of some sort not to come in and do commercial buildings or, you
I
know.
wouldn't say that to Bob Green, though.
No,
I
I'm
wouldn't
just,
even put that in his mind that you're thinking 50 years from now that we're gonna put houses there, cause he definitely doesn't want that to happen.
we've had
so.
conversations, no, we've had conversations. He doesn't wanna see it developed. If it gets developed, he wants to see certain things, because he doesn't, the gist of it from a while back was, he doesn't want to, you know, like in my world, mechanics, some of them get a bad rap for being, like the dealers, everybody would say, the dealer rips you off. Well, in the farming world, they sell to a certain business, like, I don't know, a dollar store or something. I don't know what he was, but he kinda like, I don't wanna be like that.
Yeah,
But I don't think that he's opposed. Put it this way, everybody's got their number, And when a developer walks in because they want it and they offer you 100 times more than what it's worth because they know that that's easier to pay for that bare ground than it is to tear down a bunch of houses to put something in. It's really hard to turn that check away is all I'm saying. I'm not saying that we want to develop it, I'm just saying that is a potential at some point. And it would be better to be in the town than outside the town, let somebody else benefit from it, is my thought to that.
Well, I think another part of that is just to remember, there are 3 levels of annexation. And while the last annexation we did was a super voluntary. But a town is allowed to go through a process of an involuntary annexation. And not that I'm wanting to threaten that myself, but Plainfield's got the power to do that. I mean, they are stinking rich right now.
You mean do that to the town of Clayton?
No, they
Anywhere.
couldn't, they
Moving
couldn't,
away.
They can do that.
they couldn't take over your town, but they could come right up next to it.
There's only one direction they can go.
Right.
So,
So what do we want?
people, state to us, I don't wanna be annexed because I'm happy right now where it is. That's great. We're not gonna force you. I can't promise that Plainfield won't force you.
Correct.
And all you have to do is have them come within, contacting 1/8 of your property, and then all of a sudden, you're annexed in because they have the financial abilities to do that.
I guess what would you call, so you wanna call it just like an open house, have a discussion in the letter, I guess you can get with Pete and we can come up with something, it's an informal meeting, it's most formal here, make it, like coffee and donuts, come down, talk, whatever, however you wanna put it, so that way people aren't
They get a
like
letter.
abrasive, like,
An informational public
Correct.
meeting.
You can talk to them beforehand, because as soon as they get a letter in for you, a lot of people are.
well, that's what I mean, it needs to be worded in such a way that this is an open, like cookies and tea, or what, I don't know, whatever. So it's a
I
friendly
do
meeting.
remember in 2019, when, the letter was being typed up, how Microsoft Word, you start typing a date, and it just selects today as your date. So the letters all went out. When the meeting is on, and it was the day that the letter was being typed, so everybody was all up in arms on that one, thinking, this has already happened. You had a meeting without letting us, you
Right, that's what I mean,
you sent
so
us this letter, so it's just a matter of,
wording.
we wanna make sure to invite people, and be transparent. This is an opportunity to come and sit and talk, give your input, yay or nay. It doesn't matter, your opinion is valid, your opinion is valued by this group. We wanna hear from you,
Exactly,
and we wanna tell you why we're even looking at this.
yeah, it makes sense, that's what I mean, that's the way, maybe we do that, we can do that for October, that would be a good thing. And then that way it rolls us into winter to come up and formulate a plan with our, like our legal annexation team, I guess for lack of better words.
Yeah,
And we can take
the-
their input and our input and give it to them, like if she was the lady, we just say, here, this is what we have, this is what they have, what can we do, well, how can we make this work? So they're happy, we're happy. And that gives us time to work on it.
Yeah, I don't think that the law firm is gonna get in the middle of that. I think they will just simply say, here are the rules for the state of Indiana on.
Well, sometimes they might ask something that isn't necessarily correct to the law. To the,
You talk to them before, so we already
Yeah.
have their answers before we get here to the meeting. for the most
well,
part.
no, what I mean is that's what that is about. I want their input on, like Doug says, I want their pros and cons of becoming part of the town. Then we put an actual formal meeting for that. We move forward with that, with their knowledge and our knowledge mixed together to make a good plan, formulated plan for them. For us, they're included in the plan. Those homeowners are included in the plan and not just told, this is what we're doing. that's my gist of it, right, Doug? Kinda what you were saying?
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, we have their addresses already and their names already on the, although we might just double check that nobody's moved and sold their property to somebody else, but, you know, these are the properties that we wanna look at annexing. And then we have a list of why are we doing this? What services are we as the town of Clayton offering to them? And then what's their input on this? What's their take? What do they want out of this for us to move
I bet you
forward?
they don't want to annex into Plainville.
Right.
I bet you they don't want to annex into Plainville.
Right.
Don't think you'll have a problem.
Well, and, I mean, you know, obviously, that's not an immediate threat, but
No.
it certainly could be in the next 10, 15 years. I don't know how fast that's gonna happen, but,
Well, if you remember,
Right.
Bridgeport was to Indianapolis and Plainville,
Right.
that's one mess.
I mean, are you guys okay with, moving forward with that, where we had that in the October
I have
meeting?
a question though. October, I know Bob Brennan he still gets out and combines, I know that,
I
but
understand.
he's basically retired, but what about the other guys interested? Are they active farmers?
It's
The reason
the,
I'm asking is because October's
I
harvest
know, it's
time.
harvest, I get it.
Yeah,
A lot of those.
I mean, a lot of it's Bob
farmers
Brennan,
here
most of
just
them are just
playing
residents.
business.
okay, so
Yeah,
that's that one.
Bob represents a lot of those
Yeah.
parcels,
Right.
a lot of those parcels.
Okay.
So he's one person, I'm sure he's still farming, I haven't talked to him, I don't know how much.
I know he did some planting this spring, and he ran a combine last fall.
Right, I mean, we're talking 2 hours, he should be able to come and talk with us, especially with that, I mean, he got 2 months warning, or, you
Yeah.
know, we get the letters out in the next couple of weeks, he's got a month and a half.
That might be great.
Yeah, I mean, he's got plenty of time to kind of plan and know we're not springing on him,
Yeah.
you know, 2 weeks prior or something. So I think we'll have Pete, kind of get something together and I can help you with that, Pete.
I
Doug
don't
can
remember
help.
what month we, did it back in 2019, but
It was cold, wasn't it?
I don't.
I think it was cold.
I just remember this room was the fullest I've ever seen it.
Yeah, cause I sat back there.
Since before or after. I mean, even when we were having our public hearings for our, raising our sewer rates, we didn't have the response for people. We sent out that letter with the wrong date on it about annexation, and they thought they had already missed it. They all, I mean, it was full in here.
So moral of the story, proofread.
Yes.
Okay, now, when we do that, do we want to have a little, I don't know, coffee and tea or something set up? So it's more informal than formal, you know, atmosphere when they come in?
That's fine.
Okay.
Just don't wanna make it a bribe for them.
No, it's not a bribe, it's just, listen, I'm a guy that
Yeah.
likes my coffee and I'm sure, you know, other people like coffee or tea, whatever.
Sure.
And if they're sitting there, it's a little more comfortable and it's not suit and tie if they're sitting there sipping on a cup of coffee. I think, I'm simple, I
It is.
don't know.
We don't wanna have a sit down buffet or anything, or is that what
If you wanna cook it all, I'll be right there, I'm good, I can't cook, I can eat.
Pinkies up.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, that's the only thing new that I had, that I wanted to start moving forward to. It's a lot of moving pieces with this and that, but it's doable. I don't see why it's not doable to do them both at the same time. Does anyone else have anything that they'd like to bring up?
I do have a question, liquor store, they did all that work for 2 parking places? Is that, I mean, that's what it looks like,
I don't know what parking spaces they're trying to get out of that, but
Made it look better anyway.
well, it looks nice,
Oh, I think
I
it
just,
was awful.
they are not done.
Those posts
The
are not
poles.
straight, well, and I go past there every time and I think, oh my gosh, who put those posts in?
Somebody.
Cemented those things in there.
Somebody
So
did.
Lime's third grade.
So, yeah, they stopped at the liquor store.
are they wooden posts?
Sorry, guys, that was me, I don't know how to.
Somebody will hit them, so.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It's art.
Okay.
So then we got an art district.
I can't figure it out.
Yeah.
We have to rezone for that too.
A lot of
Art
art.
district.
If you paint them, it would be art. Put some flowers.
Maybe we get more apple people. Make some.
Okay, we'll call this meeting adjourned.